Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I am George. We're all George. So today, on this beautiful Sunday, I want to show you surprising data about Bitcoin buying. That's right. There is a lot of Bitcoin buying, but it's not from who you think. It's actually very surprising in terms of retail investors actually leading the way. And also, there are other things I want to show you guys that could indicate that a reversal or a bottom has been formed. So, thanks for tuning in, guys. As always, smash up the like, subscribe to the channel. 2 streams every day, 11:30 and 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. On weekends, I'm a little off, but that's why you want to hit that notification bell to get notified. And follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and check out all the latest articles on CryptosRUs.com. All right, guys. Welcome. Got a good show for you guys today, as always. Switching my screen here. Not a whole lot going on with Bitcoin today. Still 31.5, right around the same time yesterday, right? And we're still stuck overall in this range of 41,000 and 31,000. Now, I will talk about it during Q&A. I did watch some channels recently, some TA experts, and I will tell you guys what they have said, and it more or less correlates with what I've been saying for a while. But you know, I'll talk about it during Q&A. But I did want to move right away to the surprising data that I found, and it is really surprising. So take a look at this. This is from Glassnode, and this measures 3 metrics. One, you have people that's holding Bitcoin between 0.1 and 1. Okay, this is I think a vast majority of you guys are in this range. And then you have people that are just like dabbing in 0.01 to 0.1. All right, and then this also shows you just overall net growth of everyone in this space. And you could see from the beginning of Bitcoin all the way till now, there's been some up and downs, especially with net growth. But you could see the balance or the people that are holding and accumulating between 0.01 to 0.1 and 0.1 to 1 keeps going up. Keeps going up. In fact, you could argue that it is going up even faster now, especially with the very, very newcomers that are holding 0.01 to 0.1. You could see it actually accelerated, right? And you don't see any big dips. You don't see any kind of actually reversal downwards. And that is actually really, really surprising, right? Because right now, you would figure that we are where we are because all the retail investors have left and that there's just no more buying, right? But if you're looking at it like this, you actually realize, wow, a lot of the retail investors that did came in, stayed in, and continue to hold, and more are coming in too. Well, that's really, really fascinating. Also, if you look at the entity's net growth, which is the green, you can see there's some up and downs. There is some up and downs with that. And here's a broader picture of net growth versus Bitcoin's price. And it's actually a pretty good top indicator if you look at it. Every time the net growth, exponentially explodes upwards, you'll see that there's always a cooldown period. And whenever that net growth comes down, you see Bitcoin's price, which is represented in black right now, come down too. It's almost like a top indicator, a short-term top indicator. And you could see that there's been periods where, 2011, 2013, 2014, here's one in 2017, 2018, right? And right now, we don't see that. You don't see a big explosion upwards or net growth. You just see constant growth. And what's important is look at what has happened over here towards the right side, the very, very right side. And you can see obviously the price coming down, yet the net growth continues upwards. So that's also very interesting. You don't see the net growth come down. We didn't see like a huge spike upwards at any given time in 2020 or 2021. right? But we saw it tail end of 2017. So this is another indicator that we did not see top yet, that more is to come. And what's really interesting is the fact that net growth continues to grow. People are accumulating and buying behind the scenes while Bitcoin's price is down. That's also very, very interesting. And yesterday, for those of you guys that tuned into my live chat with Jordan Cameron, I showcased a couple of celebrities like Mike Tyson and Busta Rhymes. And neither has anything to do with crypto, but they're crypto curious now. Even Mike Tyson asked about Bitcoin and Ethereum. And it makes me wonder, these celebrities tend to FOMO in also, whatever's hot at the moment. But these guys are looking at it right now when there's a lot of fear out. There's a lot of FUD. If you're just spending all day on Twitter, there's like nothing positive being said. Everyone is turning trollish and bearish, right? But it makes me wonder, these guys, they're famous, for, either through music or boxing, but they're also savvy investors. And for them to be asking the question now, whether or not they should be getting into crypto and Bitcoin and Ethereum and anything else, right? Makes me wonder if, they know something too. They know that this is actually a pretty good point to get in. This is that bottom that people have been waiting for, right? Bitcoin is down 50% while altcoins are down 60, 70, 80%. I don't think it's 80%. It's like more like 40, 50, 60. But yeah, so interesting too. And this is not it. So besides just entities like retail investors going up, net growth going up despite the fact price is going down, Willy Woo, of course, works a lot with Glassnode and charts. And according to him, in the last 30 days, whales sold about 4,000 Bitcoin. And I think he defines whales anything above 1,000 Bitcoins. Whales sold about 4,000 Bitcoins. On a grand scheme of things, that's not a whole lot. Okay, but Plebs, which is just normal people, retail investors, have bought 31,000 Bitcoins. And that, again, correlates with what you're seeing here, right? You have a lot of newcomers coming in thinking that this is a good bottom, a good buying opportunity. And you know what? You could see things are coming up, right? So also very, very interesting indeed. So that's why this is surprising data, at least to me, because right now you would figure there is no retail buying, that the price is supported basically by the big institutions that have bought and they're just holding, right? Talking about like MicroStrategy, Tesla, Square, Mass Mutual, all these guys have bought, right? And I do think that does help the price because there's so much of it that's just being held, and that was bought within a very, very short amount of time. But also something that also helps with the price is the fact that retail investors are still buying, entering the market, and holding. It's not the greatest amount of Bitcoins, but when you have all these retail add up, right, the numbers add up, it amounts to something. So pretty interesting, right? And that's not all. I have something else, and I'm glad someone did this. Remember, I've been showing you guys the crypto fear and greed index. And recently, of course, it's all fear. There's no greed recently. Today is about 19. Yesterday was about 15. And you know what? I was saying, if you look at this index over time, in the max time frame, you can see whenever Bitcoin clumps up in the fear region, that's also a pretty good turning point, a reversal point. And I'm glad someone actually put this into a chart. And basically, if you look on the bottom, right, just kind of like RSI, you have a top and a bottom. And when you have the greed index go to 80, which is really, really greedy, right? And then you have the bottom, the fear index at being 10. And then you look at how this index just, goes up and down, pretty good top and bottom indicator if you look at it. And right now we're hovering more towards the bottom, right? Like that's why we see this clumping here. and we're just kind of hovering there. And the last few times, Bitcoin spent a significant amount of time with this much fear in the past. Like if you, I know my cursor doesn't show up, but if you look at the dip in January 2019, when it was very, very low, right? That's when Bitcoin fell to 3,100. You look at the bottom around March of 2020, you could see the fear index also hit very low. And now you look at July of 2021, also hit very, very low and is staying down, right? Again, I've been talking about this. This could be a bottom indicator, right? So there you go. A lot of data, a lot of on-chain metrics that show that buying did not stop, that Bitcoin will continue to move on, despite what all the naysayers are saying about Bitcoin and how there's absolutely no buying and we're in a bear market and be prepared to hold for the next 3 years and this and that. These kind of metrics show that that's not the case. That's not the case. A lot of what we're seeing right now with the non-movement or even the down movement, I think it had a lot to do with the China exodus in terms of miners. And we know that is starting to correct itself. Hash power is starting to come up. Those miners are starting to spin up elsewhere, which is positive. And all the media FUD from Scott Minerd and everyone else, people are sick of hearing that. Even Elon FUD doesn't do anything. When he pokes some fun of Bitcoin, it does nothing now, right? So all the influence that's out there, and I'm talking about people that are driving FUD, they've lost their power too. So that is why we're seeing what we're seeing. Bitcoin is going sideways. Very, very boring right now, but that's also positive. Previous bottoms, I'm talking about local bottoms like what happened in March in 2020 and January or December of 2018, we saw the same thing where Bitcoin literally just went sideways, did not do anything for a very, very long time. But the difference is Bitcoin's bottom right now is at 31,000, okay? Previous bottoms were at 3,000 or 4,000. So there's a big difference there, which is why I like to remind everyone when you're looking at the charts like this, look at where things were a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, right? Don't focus so much on now, although I know that's important. It's impossible to ignore price right now. But if you're investing for the future, realize that long term, everything is still right on track. Everything is still going according to plan. And whatever may happen short term will just stay short term, right? Okay. With that said, for those of you guys that are holding and trading long term, especially using I Trust Capital because you're trading with their 401k or IRA, well, they have just added 2 new terrific coins. Solana, which is a project that I really believe in. So I Trust Capital has been adding a whole bunch, like all the popular ones that you could think of: Cardano, Chainlink, Sushi, Aave, Polygon, and they also added Curve, which is a DEX protocol. So they've been adding a lot. So those of you guys that are using I Trust Capital, you know what? There's 2 more coins that you can buy with your 401k and IRA. All right, now let's get into Q&A. And I did talk about at the beginning, I said, well, I was bored this morning, so I decided to look up, and I randomly found some videos, and one of them was actually a pretty good one in regards to a couple of people talking about technical analysis, what's going on with Bitcoin. Is this the bottom? Are we go further down or further up, right? Now, here's the thing about most TA people that I don't think a lot of them talk enough about, but most of them are actually still long-term holders. They'll even say that despite the fact that maybe trading or looking at certain indicators or certain times to buy or sell for trading, but most of them are long-term holders of either Bitcoin or Ethereum or something, right? So that's number one. I've been hearing a lot more about these guys. They're saying, yeah, I trade, but I still have a bag. And I still continue to dollar cost average into the bag because in case the TA is wrong. And what's interesting is today I heard an explanation why. Because for these guys that are relying on TA, they're like, you know what? It's just a matter of probability, right? So if I think a certain pattern indicates a breakout down or up, it could be 70-30, 70% that I'm correct. But 30% of the time, I may not be correct. And that is why I buy. Because if I'm thinking, say, Bitcoin will break below 30, and there's a 70% chance of that, well, there is still a 30% chance that it doesn't break down and it breaks upwards. So buying and holding long term is actually a hedge against wrong probability or wrong outcome, right? So that's also an interesting thing if you think about it. Like, because TA, I think TA is more like 50-50. Some of these guys will argue it's not. It's more like 70-30 or 60-40 or 80-20, something where TA will give you the edge. But there's always a chance that that is wrong, right? And that is why actually holding or counter trading what your gut or what TA is saying is actually a hedge against if you're wrong. So that's actually really interesting. So I just want to start with that. But the big thing that most TA guys are looking at right now, at least the narrative always changes, it seems like. But the big one is the 50 MA, which is what Bitcoin is pressed right against right now. On the weekly, it's pressed right against the 50, right? So again, this could be a bottom indicator, because there's been many times where when Bitcoin actually fell down to this point, right, it started going up. Now, if Bitcoin closes below this, then, you know, the TA guys will argue that, well, maybe an event like this will happen, right? But from at least the video I saw this morning, they were not thinking that this is actually the bottom, unless there is some external factor or some FUD that drives Bitcoin lower, something that pushes Bitcoin beyond what the charts and everything else, the patterns and everything else is showing, right? And that's why I'm relating back to what I said. I think Bitcoin is going to stay where it is for quite some time. It may be staying within that 40 and 31 or 30,000 range for quite some time. But the only thing I worry about is if there is some kind of external factor. And I'm looking at maybe like a broader stock market crash, okay? Because many analysts are predicting that's going to come this year. Some are predicting as soon as August. Some are predicting later on, like September, October timeframe. And I do think if there is a catalyst and drives the market down and there's some big correction, that could make Bitcoin come down more, right? So that could happen. But again, keyword is could. There's also many people and analysts think that there is no correction that's going to come. That with all the new stimulus packages that is still coming out, that more and more money is just going to flow in, and Powell's not going to raise interest rates anytime soon. So if that's the case, then there is no catalyst to drive things down, right? So it's kind of like a waiting game. So without an external like major event or major FUD, you know, I don't know what other FUD there is. Maybe Powell comes out and says, I'm going to regulate everything besides stablecoins, or Tether collapses, or something else, like something huge. Tesla declares they're selling all their Bitcoins, something like that. I do think if you have some kind of major FUD, that could definitely drive Bitcoin lower. But if there isn't, this really all signs indicate that where we are now is kind of like where we're going to stay, and this is bottom, and everything is indicating that we should be turning up soon. Now, when I say soon, that could be next week, that could be a month from now, 2 months from now, but this is why I maintain that the bull cycle is going to continue, because we're still in July. You know, there's still 5 months left of this year, and normally when you have that last year of a bull cycle, or bull run, I should say, it's explosive, especially towards the last few months. I think people forget that in 2017, Bitcoin went from 6,000 to 20,000 within 1 month, from November to December. That was the most explosive pump that I've experienced. Because I missed out on the pump in 2013. I got in a tail end, but I'm telling you guys, with these blow off tops, they come when there's a huge spike upwards. And even though you could argue we had kind of a big spike upwards, but we stalled out like this. And this has never happened at a previous top before of a bull cycle. No, it would just go up, like it hit the moon and then it drops right back down, right? So yeah, just want to let you guys know a few things. Also, short term, if you're not on the weekly, at a daily, I did see one guy talk about how this 50 MA has been a pretty good support for Bitcoin coming up, and right now it's it's like a resistance, right? So it was like a support turn resistance, and what's bullish is if we could break past this, which isn't really far off. I mean, it's 35,000. If Bitcoin could break above 35,000, then it could build momentum to go to 41, and then of course build momentum to go higher. If we break above 41, and that's pretty much like the start of the next leg up, right? I do believe that. All right, guys, I rambled on a lot. Let's do some Q&A. All right, let me scroll up. Tess cooks for you. Happy Sunday. Do you actually have a business, Tess, where you're cooking for people? Because that's kind of cool. That's actually pretty popular these days. These people are so sick of takeout food and delivery that they want home cooked meals, and I hear that's actually exploding up in a big way. Joe Mama, love you, George. How am I supposed to take anything you say seriously when you call Tyson Busta, who have both gone bankrupt, savvy investors? Here's the thing. A lot of rich people, they go bankrupt not because they're poor. There's actually good reason for them to go bankrupt. So they could get rid of all their debt for that business entity. So don't let that fool you. Don't let that fool you. You could look up. There's a lot of people that claim bankruptcy, and people like to say, oh, okay, those guys are dead broke. No, they're not. They have multiple businesses, and they just claim bankruptcy because they want to get rid of one business. It doesn't mean that they're actually broke, just so you know. And even if they are broke, okay, they're still richer than 99.9% of the population. So let's put that into perspective too. So some of these guys are not as bad with money as you think. There's a lot of tricks that you can play. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors. Just like when a big boy like Scott Miner tells you that Bitcoins could go down, why is he really telling you that? Because he's accumulating. Just like when you ask businessmen, how's your business doing? It's doing okay. And that's code for it's doing really well, but I don't want you to know. You ask your friend, how's your business doing? Oh, it's fantastic. I've never seen better numbers. Code for I'm actually really struggling, but I don't want you to know. So there's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there. Brendan Thompson, would you look into Rug Zombie? They're giving NFTs in exchange for scammed and rug tokens. The NFT looks good. Relatively low cap makes me nervous. If it makes you nervous, Brendan, don't get into it. And it sounds like a really stupid name. Really stupid concept. Why would you want to exchange your scammed or rug tokens for an NFT that has no value at all? It makes no sense. What are they backing the NFTs by? Right? And the fact that you're nervous about it means that you should not get in. So why even get in on something that you're not even sure of? So, yeah. No, I'm not going to be looking at zombie tiger charts. Jenny says it's going to 47K this following week. Be prepared. I would not be surprised. I mean, Bitcoin needs to do something. It's been stuck in this range for quite some time, right? Oh, I forgot. I do have one other article that shows that right now, this down draw is the second longest ever in a bull market, which kind of shows you that, yeah, this has happened before, because in 2013, that's why a lot of people also think our current cycle mimics 2013, because 2013, it did shoot up quite a bit, came down, and that down draw took about 197 days before it started going up again. And we're not close to there yet, but this is why I said before that this has happened before, right? Maybe not exactly, but we have seen long kind of, consolidation periods or drawdowns in bull cycles before. And even if this is the longest, even if it never happened before, it doesn't mean that it can't ever happen. Just because it's a first doesn't mean that it's bad. I think that's what also a lot of people that are driving this narrative is like, oh, this never happened or this never happened. But they always look at it glass half empty. Doesn't mean that it has to be bad. Check out CZ's latest tweet. Why don't you just tell me what it is? I don't want to bring up something else that may not be relevant. Thoughts on GBTC Unlocked? I mentioned this last night or yesterday. Today is the biggest unlock, but it started the 16th. But it's the weekend. We're not going to see the results until tomorrow when the market's open. You can't trade GBTC when the market's closed. But here's the thing, and someone's trying to argue with me until, I may be wrong, but I haven't heard anything otherwise. GBTC cannot be redeemed for Bitcoin. Even if you're an institutional investor, you bought it in GBTC, you can't redeem, okay? So if they choose to dump their GBTC shares, that's fine. There could be a lot of GBTC shares out there. And if there's no one buying them, then the price of GBTC shares will go down and there will be a negative premium versus the NAV. And the NAV is how much Bitcoin is in that trust, which is at $60-something billion right now. So if you look at it that way, the NAV could continue, that negative premium could continue to go down. It's at like negative 13 or 15 right now. It could go to negative 20 or 40. But as a person, a retail investor, I just think there's no reason to buy GBTC other than you're just buying low and selling high. It's not like if you buy GBTC shares at a negative 40 premium, you could convert it for 40% more Bitcoin. You can't. It doesn't work that way, right? And the only reason what you would buy is it's low, and then when it comes back up, you sell, and you're profiting from the difference, right? But this negative premium versus Bitcoin doesn't help you in any way. If you could redeem GBTC for Bitcoin, then sure, everyone will go buy up all the GBTC shares and redeem for Bitcoin because you're buying at a discount. But you can't. You can't redeem it. So it makes no difference that the negative premium is at -5 or -30 or -50 because you're not redeeming for Bitcoin. So I think this is going to be a non-event. I think that these institutions that is supposedly going to dump, maybe they don't dump at all. They just keep holding. And in fact, they may buy more GBTC shares with a negative premium to balance out what they have, right? But we'll see tomorrow. We're not going to see anything today. I think people were expecting something to happen today. The unlock could be today, but the market's closed. So you'll see. We'll see it tomorrow. Scrolling up. Okay, scrolling down. Robert, no, I did not. Just sounds like another silly coin. Ron says, I need help with Binance locked account for 3 months. I can't help you. I don't have any inside connections. I hear that a lot from people, not just from Binance. I just got an email the other day about Coinbase locking someone else's account out for 3 weeks, whatever. Some of these, the support service for some of these exchanges are just really bad. Okay, so I mean, the only thing you could do is keep emailing them, keep reaching out on Twitter. I mean, it's unfortunate, but there's nothing you could do. You just have to keep trying until you get someone to help you. And you know, like Binance and some of these other exchanges have live chat. You could try them, right? Um, what if someone posted very dangerous info on blockchain, say deadly virus, DNA, or smart contract of a death of purpose? I mean, it could happen. Maybe it has happened, right? But no one will notice. I mean, I don't know, I don't know what you say to that. Ricky says 20 years from now I have big money, but for now I'll stay broke and humble. Well, even if you're rich, I think the best thing is to stay humble. So, staying humble is, I think, the best way to do it. Of course, if you have some money, you want to show off a little bit, you want to enjoy your life a little bit, that's fine, but just don't turn into a big D head, you know? Appreciate you. Dope Creations, thank you. Always appreciate your support. Voyager token, I think they're a good app. So, Voyager token, you know, it's funny. Voyager token, you know, it's really not necessary. It doesn't really do anything other than you can hold it and earn interest. But it's one of those tokens that really doesn't do a whole lot for the app or the project if you think about it. And they're a publicly traded company too. I have seen Multivac before. They're a Chinese-based project. Um, you know, I don't recall what made them. I think they're a DAG that uses. They're like a ledger. They're a DAG that has public and private chains, I believe. But there was really nothing that really stood out. Like, wow, this is so much different. So. Zach says if people were educated more on DeFi, they would never sell and put their assets to work. Yes, I mean there's so many ways to do that. If you know, just from a passive income perspective, if you had a whole bunch of money sitting in the bank account, you know, let's just say 50, 100,000, you're collecting basically no interest, 1% a year or 1.5% a year or something like that. CDs maybe like 2%, 2.5 or something. Right? If you simply converted that to, say, a stable coin and you put that into a DeFi project or a lending project, you could collect 8 or 9% versus your 1 to 2%. That in itself is DeFi. That's the simplest form. And, you know, your only risk is that these entities that you basically deposit with, right? Your only risk is if they go belly up. But these guys are like really collateralized and they don't give out loans without collateral, so it's very unlikely that they would. And there are some very trustworthy entities and projects. But yeah, I mean, that's the simplest form, right? And in volatility, it doesn't affect you. Bitcoin goes up or down, ETH goes up or down. These are stable coins. They're pegged 1 to 1, so it doesn't really, right? So Zach, I think you're right, but there's also, of course, other riskier DeFis, right? If you're staking or you're doing yield farming with a lot of these crypto where they do give you high interest, but if the underlying crypto goes down, then it negates the interest and you're losing more, right? So there's a lot to DeFi. This is why I think DeFi is here to stay. It's still evolving, and why the underlying layer that are supporting these DeFi projects like Ethereum, they're going to be carried much higher because of it. A negative premium for GBTC just means that there's more sellers than buyers of GBTC, and this is versus the NAV price, which is the what's it net asset value, basically. I don't have any real thoughts on EOS these days. They're inherent problems from years ago about collusion and being too centralized is still there. I don't like Dan Larimer leaving, declaring he's leaving and coming back, and I don't know. They still seem to have the same problems as before. I know they've onboarded new projects, but still, it seems like it's more of the same. I haven't heard anything differently. BlackRock Petroleum is putting up 1 million mining rigs in Canada over the next 3 years. What are your thoughts? I don't have any thoughts. Is it from BlackRock, though? Because I'm not a fan of BlackRock. Or it just happens to be BlackRock Petroleum, but just another name. Well, if this is... when it comes to Bitcoin miners, the more that's out of China, the better. Okay? I don't think they're going to be stupid enough to kick out everyone. I think they're going to keep a minimum amount because they still want to have some presence, have some Bitcoin presence. But last time I checked, it was down to like 48% in China, and North America has grown to 17%. I think that 17% will continue to rise, probably 20, 30%. Right? And then overall, the more distributed the mining is across the world, the better it is. Kenneth, I kind of agree with that. I mentioned yesterday how once this unlock happens and nothing happens to the price, it could be a catalyst to drive things up. Because I think too many people are using this to think that, to basically spread FUD about how Bitcoin was going to go down because of it. It really has no correlation. It's just GBTC shares. Circle, USDC, yes, much more trustworthy. USDC is much more trustworthy than USDT, and I'm glad to see that USDC is starting to catch up to USDT. The USDT dominance is actually starting to go down as more and more are onboarding USDC into their chains, and more people are using USDC. All right, last few questions. Anything? Hong Kong opens in 8 hours. Will we see GBTC effects? I don't think GBTC trades in Hong Kong. It's the U.S. Unless they do trade in Hong Kong, but I think it's just in the U.S. markets. So I don't think that's going to do anything. Everything is playing dead right now. Yes, and that's good. Because the key word there is playing dead. Or playing, I should say. But not dead. All right. I think that's pretty much it. Overall, guys, a lot of surprising data about Bitcoin. The biggest thing is, retail. Retail have not given up, despite the fact that it seems like they have. Seems like retail is completely gone, but no. All these metrics show that retail is actually still going up. And that's fantastic. It shows that a lot of people coming into the space are getting educated. They're staying for one reason or another, whether they believe in Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation, or they want more decentralization or distrust over governments, or they believe Bitcoin will continue going higher, right? Whatever the reason may be, a lot of retail is still coming in and still holding. And I think that's fantastic. And, when things pick up, these are going to be the people that gets rewarded the most. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. David still like Polygon. Yes, why would I not like it all of a sudden? Just because the price goes down? No, David. But I appreciate the super chat. I still do like Polygon quite a bit. All right, thanks for tuning in. Smash the like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys tonight, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.